Molweni, Wamkelekile. My name is Jess Dewhurst and I'm the founding CEO of the Justice Desk. I'm a proud South African, a proud feminist, a daughter, a sister, and a proud woman of the African soil. I was born 2 years before the end of the apartheid regime, and apartheid was a horrendous oppressive system within South Africa that was a set of laws that dictated that white people had more human rights and privileges and rights in general than any person of colour. After colonization followed by apartheid, it wasn't a great time in our history at all as South Africans. And I grew up kind of as we got our independence, as we got our freedom, our democracy. But even though we said we are free and we're equal, white people still hold the majority of land, the majority of wealth, and the majority of assets in the country. So what I was hearing and what I was seeing was very different. And because of that, I rebelled really badly as a child. I didn't know really how to process it as a child. I thought that everyone was lying to me. So I became a brat and I was very naughty. And then a teacher sat me down one day and said, Jessica, you can be angry at the world, or you can use your privilege and do something about it and to change it. So I started working I got my first job at a non-profit at 14 years old. I started working at refugee centers for children who are orphans, children who are survivors of rape and violence and war, children infected or affected by HIV and AIDS. And it was a brilliant experience. I really loved it. And we ran camps for vulnerable kids and we would just give them food and fun and activities. But what I realized was that the same kids kept coming to camp all the time. And I started asking myself, what are we actually changing? If we truly believe in the dignity and worth of this child, this human being, surely we should want them to not have to keep coming back to need the services. So I realized that we were doing predominantly charity-based work, and so I flipped it around and then I did the UN side of things, which was lobbying countries to change laws. And that was great, we did it, we got a couple countries to agree to change laws and sign on to different mechanisms and treaty bodies. But then the laws changed, but nothing changed on the ground. And so ultimately, that's where the vision of the Justice Desk became a reality. It was the question, who are the ones that are best equipped to lead actual systemic change on the ground? In their schools, in their homes, in their families, in their communities, in their workplace, in their church. The people best equipped to lead change in those spaces aren't politicians, they aren't lawyers, they aren't social workers, they're not philanthropists. The person who's best equipped to lead change there is you. So what Justice Desk does is we equip everyday people to become human rights defenders and change makers. So to know what their rights are, which is very important, to know how to access them, because you can know what it is, but if you don't know how to access it, it's useless. To know what your responsibilities are as a citizen, but most importantly, to know how to defend them, to defend your rights, but to defend the rights of others. So our movement we're 10 years old. We are completely youth-run, driven, founded, led. We have changed the lives of over 2 million people, and we are now expanding over 10 different African countries. So it's an amazing movement of young people who are not waiting for a superhero to change the world. They're going to do it themselves, and that's our mission. We don't have to change the world, but we can train and empower and equip and support the everyday person to change their world. And in that way, everyone doing their work everywhere, things will hopefully change for the better. I do think the younger you are when you start, the more holistic of a human you will be. I think being exposed to the sufferings of others and systemic injustice from a young age is a very important thing. It helps shape your view of the world and your place in the world. I think I was quite shocked when I came and I started speaking to a lot of young people here in Korea, and I was saying, what are the biggest justice issues in your country, or what type of volunteerism work are you doing? And a lot of young people were saying, no, we focus on schoolwork and it's to get good grades and get into a good university. And that was quite interesting for me because it's very different across Africa. We are people that grow up naturally thinking of not just our rights but the rights of others. We are the type of people who cannot stand injustice of any kind. When we see someone being wronged, it's not a matter of, oh, should we go and help or step up? It's a matter of, let's go and step up, because that's wrong. But it does mean there's a concept called Ubuntu. It runs in our DNA. We cannot exist we cannot be happy in our own existence if there is suffering in someone else's. So I think it really shapes who we are as people, and it shapes how we approach the world. And I think that clear grasp and connection to humanity is something that's really important, and I think that is being lost around the world. So I would always encourage young people, start as young as you can. The younger, the better, definitely. Ubuntu, the translation is I am because you are. So I cannot exist if you do not exist. I cannot have food on my table if you do not have food on your table. It's about recognizing that happiness cannot be found just within yourself. Happiness can only be found in a community, in a family with others. So I think that is it's a lifestyle change, it's a mind shift change, and it's not always easy, but it's something that we promote constantly. And it's not easy. We don't achieve it every single day, especially in South Africa. We're still a very deeply divided country. But it is part of our DNA, and I think it's something that we continually strive to be better at, which is living a life of Ubuntu. I think that across Africa, we've been exploited, like the continent of Africa has been exploited for such a long time. Generations and generations and generations of colonization, followed by either dictatorships or apartheid. All many people know is their rights being taken from them, and their dignity and worth being oppressed and squashed on an everyday basis. So I think that we are very conscious of what it's like to suffer. But at the same time, we are very conscious of our values as people. And Africa has very strong values when it comes to, we have the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that also explains it. We cannot exist in isolation. We cannot achieve anything in isolation. Part of African culture in general, I can actually confidently say, is about being together. It's about being a family. It's about valuing community. And I think that in order to do that, you need to be open, you need to be welcoming, you need to be accepting of people, of our diversity, of our difference, of our uniqueness that we bring to the table. And Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Tutu, they realized very early on that if we are so divided, if we're fighting each other constantly, there is no future for us. We cannot move forward if we are constantly taking more steps back. And I think for other people around the world, I think really taking time to reflect on what does Ubuntu mean? Why are we put on this earth together if we are so obsessed with being an independent individual, only focused on our own lives? And sure, an individual person can be happy, but if you're happy all alone, what type of happiness is that? So it's really about reconnecting with humanity. And humanity is not an individual, humanity is all of us. We believe that the best experts in a community as to what their issues are, but also how to solve it, is the community members themselves. I think when you have big figures like Mother Teresa and Nelson Mandela and all these incredible people, we put them on pedestals and we put them as this faraway figure, and we start to lose the ability to identify with them. We go, wow, this issue is really big. We need someone like Nelson Mandela to fix it. And I'm like, why can't you fix it? And no, because I'm not Nelson Mandela. Why not? Nelson Mandela was a human being. So everyday activism is about saying you can be a father, a mother, a teacher, you can be a domestic worker, you can be a factory worker, you can be a grandparent, you can be a child, you can be a student. Whoever you are the most uniquely placed and perfect person to address the issues in your life, your family, your community, your school, your workplace. So everyday activism is really about getting up, seeing something that is not right, and simply saying something about it. That's all an activist is. And just in those little actions, you are already transforming someone's world. Our biggest project is called the Youth Ambassadors Program, and we operate in many schools across the continent. And we have incredible teachers and incredible students that we educate and train and equip to be human rights defenders. And they run 4 large-scale human rights campaigns a year. Things from ending gender-based violence, ending human trafficking, campaigns on simply teaching people about their human rights, teaching people about human rights, speaking up against child marriage and corporal punishment. And our youth ambassadors are incredible. They've been responsible for the capture of human traffickers, for ending child marriages, from abolishing corporal punishment in over 6 schools in Zambia alone, for setting up the first WhatsApp line for the deaf community to call the police in South Africa. And these are all children under the age of 17. So our Youth Ambassadors Project is our biggest. We also have the Umbokoro Project and the Nsiki Atemba Project. So the Umbokoro Project works with girl survivors of rape and gender-based violence from particularly vulnerable township oppressed communities. And we teach the girls self-defense and fitness, so they learn how to physically protect themselves, which also helps build their confidence levels. We give them access to mental health care and trauma counseling and support, so to help them overcome a lot of the trauma that they've gone through, but also to be able to cope with it for the remainder of their lives. And then the third component is empowerment workshops. So we teach young women about the fact that as human beings we are all equal, and that you have a right to lead, you have the right to have a say, you have the right to make decisions about your life and your body and your community. So it's about equipping those young women to be incredible leaders. But then on the flip side, gender-based violence is massive in South Africa. We are the gender-based violence capital of the world. A woman is raped every 60 seconds and murdered every 3 hours. We have massive issues when it comes to how men treat women and children. So in order to address that, we were saying, well, what's going on with our boys? Why ultimately are our men growing up to be people who are violating the rights of others? So we started Nsiki Atemba, which means Pillars of Hope. And that's a project for young boys, particularly young boys who are at risk of joining gangs, or boys without fathers, or any positive male role models. And these boys get together, and through outdoor-based education activities, so hiking and swimming and mountaineering and all these things, they are encountering positive male role models, and they are redefining what it means to be a man. So we're not saying masculinity is wrong. That's not wrong. We're saying it's what you do with it that makes the difference. We have a project called the Moyo Project, which works with abandoned disabled people, which is a wonderful project as well. We do a lot of research and advocacy work at the United Nations, but also at a nation level and grassroots level as well. So we do a lot of work. It's quite broad, but the common theme is how can we empower you to lead your change? How I first came across BTS was when I was going through a particularly tough time with my mental health and with exposure to trauma. I had recently gone through an incredibly traumatic humanitarian disaster that had happened in one of our countries in Africa, and I was just so surrounded by so much death and so much pain and so much trauma. It was just absolutely too much, and I really I snapped, to be honest. And it was in my healing journey where when I came across BTS's music, and the lyrics really helped me to refocus my energies and help me. It reminded me what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I think it was through those lyrics that it gave me the drive to try again. I think hearing someone else say, "Hey, it's worth it," your life is so valuable, the lives of others are so valuable, and you're gonna get through this. From people I didn't even know, in a language I did not even understand, was just so refreshing, and I think it linked so much to our concept of Ubuntu that it inspired me again, because it was that concept in action. That we don't have to know each other or speak the same language or look the same to love each other. That's truly what I believe in. So hearing someone else verbalize that in such a beautiful way, in such awesome music, I loved it. So that's how I connected with BTS in that sense. And so I used to play it a lot, and started reaching out and seeing if there were any other people in South Africa who liked BTS. And the first group of volunteers for our Umbokoro project ever were all BTS Army, and they're still there to this day, our most committed volunteers. but also we had no money for this project at all. No one wanted to fund Umbokoro. And so we did an online fundraiser. BTS Army were the first group to raise those funds, so that we could just kick the project off and get it going. So through that, our girls started listening to the music, and we've all become BTS Army, and it's just been a really lovely community, I think to have. I think class plays a huge role in the type of life you will live, but I think race fundamentally plays a massive role. I mean, the reason why I'm leading my organization is because still in this day, there are people who think that my voice is more valuable because of the color of my skin. Now, I use that for our advantage. So I'll say, okay, if you'll only listen to me if I'm white, I'll be as white as you want me to be, and I will make you listen, and I'll make you, be a part of the change and give the organization and our people, the attention they deserve. But I'm very conscious that, for example, this conference, I was invited to speak at this conference, but I made sure that there was a platform for our real heroes and change makers, which are the young girls in our Umbokoro project, to speak, because I'm not the one on the streets changing lives. It's our everyday people. It's our royals. It's our incredible heroes in our projects. Even here in Korea, we've had, our girls. They had great experiences, but there were also people that were racist towards them. I mean, we sat at a restaurant where the family next to us refused to eat until we left the restaurant. We had someone shout at them on the subway. So I think that, seeing what people of color have to go through every single day just to get a seat at the table, it shouldn't be like that. And I think that we have no right as a world to say that we are democratic, and I don't think we have the right to say that we're equal in any sense. If we were, then the lives of people of color would be significantly different. I think it was MLK who said that a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And when we are scared as people, we isolate. When we're scared as people, we focus on individualizing our entire existence. And I think that is the biggest mistake we can make. One of the most incredible things we can learn from Africa as a continent is that when people are scared, they gather. When people are worried, they gather. We come together as a community because we're stronger as a community than we are individually. In many cases, as I always say to people, look to Africa, because people in Africa can have nothing, but they have everything, because they have each other. You can take power away, you can take water away, you can take electricity away, but they survive because they're a community and they're united and they're powerful and they have so much more strength as a community. So if we stick together, if we support each other, if we care for each other, then when you are going to need that care right back, you're going to have a tribe of people ready to support you. And that's what we should be focusing on. So focusing on each other more and ourselves less. Not less as in don't think of yourself. Think of yourself. Yes, you're important. But you were not put on this earth alone. You were put here with others. And that was for a reason. So find out what that reason is. We are living in a world where there are people that are benefiting hugely from our fears, from separating us, from making weapons of our diversity and our differences, and by fooling us into being completely obsessed with the things we have and not the people that we love. We need to be careful. We need to make sure that our humanity guides what we do, and not our fears, and not the things we have or the things we want. We need to focus on human rights, we need to focus on justice, and we need to recognize that we're not the only ones in this world and on this planet. We are all here together, which means we're all responsible for each other. So expand your mindset, expand your viewpoint of the world. Don't just know what's going on in your family, in your community, in your school, in your workplace, and what's on your phone. Open your eyes to the rest of this world, because it's an incredible world with incredible people and countries and cultures and religions. It is so incredible out there. So make sure that you are out there exploring, because you will become a better person for it. You will become the most incredible human, because you will learn what we are all meant to learn, which is that we are one giant global family of difference, yes, but of incredible beauty. So get out there, explore the world, get to know those who suffer, and learn that you have an incredible amount of power to lead positive change. If you need help with that, you can contact the Justice Desk. So please reach out to us. We need a lot of support. We need a lot of funding. We need as much help as we can get. So you can go to our website, which is justicedesk.org. You can email us, info@justicedesk.org. You can find us on social media, which is @thejusticedesk. And please reach out. We're a global community. We're here to support anyone we can. And if you want to continue the conversation, you can also find me on social media as well. I think it's @JessDewhurstSA. But good luck. If this is the start for you, I wish you all the best in your justice journey. And know that this is part of who we are as humans. We're here to shake things up, not to calm things down. So let's take responsibility. Let's take responsibility for our people, because if we're not, who's going to? And not just our people as in our nation, our people as the world. It's important.